Hi everyone, Freshly Cut Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Central C album, Can't Rush Greatness. UK rapper Central C, coming through with his highly anticipated full-length studio debut album, which has really been several years in the making now. Central C, a figure of note in England's hip-hop and drill scene for a minute now, and has really had a decent buzz going for him over there since the release of his 23 mixtape. But I think gradually over time he found there was more exposure and money in bringing kind of a pop appeal to his very grimy and violent drill roots, leading to this more commercial strain of drill music, which obviously artists such as Ice Spice operate within, who he's collaborated with in the past. I mean, I think many of you know the moment he really became an international sensation is when he dropped his Doja track in 2022. You know, the one that starts with, "How can I be homophobic? My bitch is gay." And since the release of that track, I feel like Central C has toned down some of the darker and more in-your-face elements of his music and has embraced more of a near monotone delivery and a lot of slightly cringe lyrical earworms. And maybe I'm gaslighting myself, but I feel like he's really used that track in many ways as a bit of a blueprint for a lot of the material on this album, because he cannot possibly be rapping with pretty much the same delivery for one song after another. But no, for the most part, he really truly is. It's almost like an endless continuum of staccato syllables and just nearly emotionless inflections. I mean, the oomph he would come through with on some tracks from 23, it's almost a night and day comparison, a retail therapy being an example. And I would even say off of this project, top freestyle as far as Sench's vocals does have a bit of a punch to it. But for the most part, on this record, this dude is rapping like he's reading out of the phone book. And, you know, sometimes I can appreciate a rap style that is low-key or even cold-blooded, like in the case of 21 Savage, who features on this record, but I don't even think Central C's core appeal works in that way. I mean, for the most part, the tracks on this thing just feel like playlist rap in that they all kind of blend together in such a way to where it doesn't really grab your attention enough to make you want to skip any one track or moment because anything stands out as particularly good or bad, which again is very strange because when you actually dig into some of the deeper lyrics on at least a handful of these cuts, he is addressing some, you know, issues around love and romance, serious traumas and very dark events of his past and his upbringing. Despite all of this detail and content, there is just this endless numbness to the rapping, to the instrumentals, to a lot of aspects of this record that doesn't really make any of the content, any of the substance of what is being said hit. Like, there's no emphasis on one thing over any other thing. So because there is so little variation within the rapping and sometimes the topics on these tracks, I feel like Cinch relies more on his features and his production here to switch things up. But a lot of the time, those elements are so unremarkable and so bland that they kind of fail to do that entirely. The only thing that truly stands out on this album and sort of serves as a bit of a benchmark, allowing me to sort of get a sense of where I am in the record, is when certain bars pop up that just warrant an eye roll. Like on the track Must Be, where of course he talks about a woman who doesn't want to fuck, and as a result of that, she must be gay. Or this one bar where he's going on about American girls laughing at him because they think it's funny when he says "wa-a-ba-o." And yes, I am so goddamn serious that he brings that up in a song. There's this other bar that doesn't quite make sense as well, where he says, "I cheat on my wife, but how can you blame me? I cheated life." Okay, I mean, sure, again, that's coming from a place of trauma, bad things happening. Nearly escaped death there, but that's cheating on your wife validation. There's also some moments on this record where he's, depicting lyrically some modern love connections, like on Gen Z Love, where he says, "I met your mum on FYP, where young and R loves Gen Z." God, there was no hope. There was no hope on this record. And, again, with the flows overall being decent but repetitive, combined with the fact that the instrumentals are really nothing to write home about, and Central C on top of all of it is not really a master of choruses. Like, there are no real banger hooks on this album, and when there is actually a formal chorus penned into these songs, there is so little variation between these moments and the verses that they don't really stand out as all that memorable. Nothing on this record really comes across as all that anthemic. There are some cuts where he's dabbling in a bit of a Latin thing. There are some cuts that are a bit more sensual and, clearly going for something more lovey-dovey than others. But outside of, those very, very, very slight changes, this record is just such a monotonous drone. Even if there are a handful of cuts that I think when I separate them out of the context of the record, they sound either decent or even good. But the main and the key issue is, as an overall album experience, this record is just really missing something. Something to actually bring personality and variation to it, and a sort of level of intensity that actually kind of requires that you engage with it directly, not just play it in the background. So, I mean, while I didn't find this album to be an awful listen or offensive to the ears or anything like that, it's certainly passable. Its lack of anything genuinely interesting kind of makes it, in a slight way, offensive to the soul, which is why I'm feeling about a light 4 on it. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Central C, forever.